Luka Dončić never married Anna Maria Goltes. No wedding, no wife, no divorce court, and yet his ex-fiancée is now demanding $50 million from him in a Slovenian courtroom. Let's get into how a man worth hundreds of millions ended up here and why the absence of a marriage certificate might not save him a single dollar. Luka Dončić is sitting on a 3-year contract extension with the Los Angeles Lakers, worth somewhere in the neighborhood of $160 million. And right now in Slovenia, his ex-fiancée is trying to take $50 million of it before he ever sees most of that money hit his bank account. Here's the number, straight from the source. Anna Maria Goltes said she wanted to settle their issues amicably, but TMZ Sports learned she's taken their fight to Slovenia, and as far as she's concerned, the cost of settlement is $50 million. Not a request, not a negotiation opener floated through lawyers in a press release. A filing in a foreign court against a guy who has never signed a marriage license with her in his life. Break down the number because it matters. Sources with direct knowledge tell TMZ that Anna Maria has filed a new claim in Slovenia, seeking $40 million for herself, and the remaining $10 million is assumed to be for their 2 daughters. $10 million for the kids. Luka has already said he'd do anything for them, so that part of the number might actually land. The $40 million for Anna Maria, personally, that's the part that turns this into a real fight. And it's not just about money. She also wants to strip Luka of some of his custody rights. Currently, he has the kids at least 2 days a week, and she wants to reduce that down to just 1. So this isn't a simple support case. It's money and time with his own children, both being contested at once, both filed in a country where Luka doesn't have the home court advantage American celebrities usually get. Now, how did we even get to a Slovenian courtroom? Rewind a few months. Prior to Dončić speaking out about the split, Anna Maria filed a legal petition in California seeking child support and attorney's fees. That was round 1, and it was fought on American soil, in a system where child support formulas in California are famously generous. But then something happened that a lot of people missed. Goltes submitted a request to dismiss her petition for child support from the Lakers superstar. Just a few months after she first filed her initial request, she pulled it, walked away from the California case. And when she did it, she framed it like an olive branch. In court docs she submitted, she stated she was withdrawing her petition with the specific intention of resolving this matter amicably and by a mutual agreement which is in the best interests of our children. Sounds nice, sounds like 2 exes trying to be adults about it. Except that's not remotely what happened next. As TMZ reported, Anna Maria filed docs in Los Angeles this week asking to withdraw her child support petition, saying she wanted to resolve the matter amicably and by mutual agreement, in the best interests of their children, but apparently that will come at a steep price. The amicable language was the setup. The $50 million Slovenian filing was the punchline. Here's why the venue switch matters so much. Luka had been arguing for weeks that California was never the right battlefield. Luka previously argued California was the wrong place for the fight because the girls live in Slovenia and said he'd already initiated proceedings there, addressing custody and support. And honestly, looking at it from the outside, that's a pretty solid legal position. Frankly, that seems like a solid argument, and Anna Maria may have dismissed the California case because it was a loser. So she didn't lose the fight, she relocated it to the exact country Luka said was the appropriate venue in the first place. And then she used that home turf to file a number 4 times bigger than anything California custody guidelines would have produced on a child support formula alone. Think about the chess move here. Luka's team, led by attorney Laura Wasser, had spent weeks arguing that Slovenia, where the kids actually live, was the only appropriate jurisdiction. Wasser argued that Goltes was restricting Dončić's access to their children, which necessitated his filing of a family law action in Slovenia in February, and concluded that Slovenia was the appropriate forum for adjudication of the dispute. Luka's own lawyers built the argument for Slovenian jurisdiction, and now Anamaria's using that exact jurisdiction to ask for a number. Nobody was talking about when this was still a California child support case. That's the trap. That's the reason a man who's never been married is suddenly facing a $50 million legal exposure just months after ending his engagement. And to understand how a couple that was together for over a decade, through his rise from a teenage prodigy in Europe to a max contract NBA superstar, ended up here, you have to go back to where this relationship actually started, long before either of them had any money to fight over at all. To understand why this fight is worth $50 million, you have to understand that Luka and Anamaria weren't strangers who met at an NBA after-party. This was a relationship that predates his entire professional career. They go back further than almost anyone realizes. Luka Dončić and Anamaria Goltis have been in each other's lives since they were children, having met on holiday in Croatia when they were around 12 years old. 12 years old before Real Madrid signed him, before the Mavericks drafted him, before anyone outside of Slovenian youth basketball had ever heard his name. The relationship itself didn't start immediately. That came later, and almost by accident. They began their relationship in 2016 after posing as friends. Think about the timeline. 2016 is the year Luka was still grinding in Real Madrid's youth system, 2 years before he'd even be drafted into the NBA. Anamaria wasn't dating a superstar. She was dating a teenager with a dream and no guaranteed future. That matters because it's the foundation of everything that makes this fight so complicated now. The Los Angeles Lakers star spent nearly a decade in a serious relationship with Slovenian model and influencer Anamaria Goltis, whom he first met as a child during a family trip to the Croatian coast. A decade. That's not a relationship that formed after the money arrived. That's a relationship that lived through every single stage of his rise. The pair began dating as teenagers in 2016 and remained together. Through his rise from Real Madrid to the NBA, his years with the Dallas Mavericks, and his move to the Lakers. And who is Anamaria? Exactly. She's not just the girlfriend. Born on 1 May 1998 in Slovenia, Goltis studied economics at the University of Ljubljana before building a career in modeling and digital content creation. An economics degree. That detail is going to matter later, because whatever legal strategy is playing out in Slovenia right now, it's not being built by someone unfamiliar with numbers, contracts, or leverage. She built her own public profile alongside his. Over the years, she amassed a significant social media following through fashion, travel, and lifestyle content, becoming one of Slovenia's most recognizable online personalities. That's important context. This isn't a private person suddenly thrust into a legal battle with a celebrity. This is someone who's been a public figure in her own country for years, with her own brand deals, her own leverage, her own audience, watching every move of this breakup play out. Now here's where the relationship turns into a family, and where the money conversation actually becomes real. They became engaged in July 2023 at a proposal in Slovenia and welcomed 2 daughters together. Gabriela, born December 2023, and Olivia, born December 2025. An engagement, 2 kids. On paper, this looked like a family building toward a wedding. The proposal itself wasn't some quiet, private thing either. It was a real moment. In July 2023, he proposed to her in a romantic lakeside setting in Slovenia, and the couple later welcomed 2 daughters. That's the kind of proposal that gets photographed, gets talked about, gets treated by fans and media as the prelude to a wedding. Everyone assumed a marriage was coming. It never did. And that's the single detail that makes this entire $50 million situation possible. Luka Dončić has never been married. No prenup conversation ever had to happen, because there was no marriage to protect against. No community property laws automatically kick in, because there was no legal union in the first place. Everything that's happening right now in Slovenia is happening in the far messier, far less standardized world of unmarried parent custody and support law. A world where a $50 million ask isn't limited by a formula, Because there's no marital contract setting the boundaries. By early 2026, all of that history, the 12-year-old meeting in Croatia, the secret friendship-turned relationship in 2016, the lakeside proposal, the two daughters came apart. By early 2026, the relationship had ended, but it didn't end quietly. And it didn't end for the reason most breakups end. This wasn't about cheating or falling out of love. This was about geography, about a career that required one parent in America and two kids who were staying in Europe. And that geography problem is exactly what forced Luka into the impossible choice that set this whole legal war in motion. If you want to understand why this legal fight escalated to $50 million, instead of quietly settling, you need to understand exactly how the breakup itself was announced. Because Luka didn't let this leak, he got ahead of it in his own words, and those words are the entire foundation of his legal strategy right now. The confirmation came directly from him to ESPN, not through a tabloid leak. Dončić confirmed the split in a statement to ESPN. That's a deliberate move. When a superstar controls the announcement of his own breakup, he's also controlling the narrative before the other side gets to shape it. And the reasoning he gave wasn't about a falling out. It was about distance. I love my daughters more than anything, and I've been doing everything I can for them to be with me in the US during the season. But that hasn't been possible, Luka said in a statement to ESPN. So I recently made the tough decision to end my engagement. Read that again. He's not blaming her, he's not airing grievances, he's framing the entire split around one single unsolvable problem. His job is in America. His daughters were staying in Slovenia, and he couldn't make both of those things true at once. He doubled down on that framing immediately. Everything I do is for my daughter's happiness. He continued, and I will always fight to be with them and give them the best life I can. That phrase, I will always fight, wasn't just emotional language. It turned out to be a preview of exactly what was coming in the courts. Because almost immediately, this stopped being a breakup story and became a legal story. Luka Dončić ended his engagement with fiancée Anna-Maria Goltitz as the ex-couple entered a custody battle. Not a separation, not a quiet co-parenting arrangement, a battle. And it started fast. Anna-Maria moved first, and she moved in America, not Slovenia. Prior to the 27-year-old speaking out, Anna-Maria filed a legal petition in California seeking child support and attorney's fees. That timing detail is everything. She filed for support in California before Luka had even publicly confirmed the split to the world. This wasn't a slow-burning disagreement. The legal machinery was already moving before the public knew anything was wrong. And Luka's side says he was blindsided by exactly how it played out. Dončić added he had no idea of Goltitz filing. Whether or not that's the full picture, it tells you the split wasn't a mutual, coordinated legal separation. One side was filing paperwork. The other side says he found out after the fact. There's also a darker layer buried in the reporting that explains why the temperature on this case got so hot, so fast. The report went on to say Dončić expressed his desire to bring their newborn to the States back in December, and a disagreement led Goltitz to call police, although officials did not detect a criminal offense. No charges, no crime found, but a police call over a disagreement about moving one of their daughters across an ocean tells you exactly how much strain this custody question had already put on two people who'd been together since they were kids. So Luka's legal team pushed back hard on the California filing, and the argument was jurisdictional, not emotional. The NBA star moved to dismiss the case, arguing that her petition for child support and attorney's fees had no legal grounds, because it was filed in California when the kids live in Slovenia. His side even claims he tried to solve the geography problem the other way. Luka and his attorney Laura Wasser even alleged he tried convincing Anna-Maria to move to the Golden State with their kids, but she refused and has resided in Slovenia with them since last May. That single fact, she refused to relocate to California. He refused to relocate his career, is the entire war in one sentence. Neither side would move, and when neither side moves, the fight moves to the courts instead. For a moment, it looked like the fight might actually cool down. Anna Maria's decision to drop the California case looked, on its face, like she was choosing peace over litigation. Her own words framed it that way. "I am withdrawing my petition for child support with the specific intention of resolving this matter amicably, and by a mutual agreement which is in the best interests of our children," she wrote to the court. But even that withdrawal came with a snag that shows how contentious things had already become behind the scenes. Anna Marie's request to dismiss was rejected by the court due to the paperwork missing Luka's signature, a dismissal. The thing that looked like an olive branch got kicked back by a judge because the two sides couldn't even agree on the paperwork to end round one peacefully. And that's the moment everything changed, because while the American case was stalling over a missing signature, the real move was already happening 3,000 miles away. In a courtroom, neither the public nor, apparently, Luka himself saw coming at first. This is the part of the story where a custody disagreement turns into one of the biggest personal financial threats of Luka Dončić's career, bigger in dollar terms than almost any fine or endorsement loss he's ever faced. Start with what Luka was building at the exact moment this $50 million filing landed. Just months earlier, he'd locked in the financial security of his life. Los Angeles Lakers star Luka Dončić agreed to a 3-year, $165 million maximum contract extension with a player option in 2028, agent Bill Duffy of WME Basketball told ESPN. That deal wasn't just big, it was designed to make him financially untouchable heading into his prime. The mechanics of that contract tell you exactly how much is riding on the next few seasons. The new deal keeps Luka Dončić out of free agency next summer, eliminating his 2026-27 player option in place of a 3-year, $165 million maximum contract extension. He gave up the freedom of hitting the open market in exchange for locked-in guaranteed money, and there's a bigger payday theoretically still coming. Dončić could opt out in 2028 and sign a new deal for 35% of the salary cap, which projects to 5 years, and $417 million. That number matters for a specific emotional reason too. In doing so, Dončić would recoup all the money lost when he was traded by the Dallas Mavericks, with whom he had been eligible to sign a 5-year, $315 million Supermax extension. This is a guy who's already lived through one seismic, out-of-his-control financial disruption, getting traded away from a Supermax situation in Dallas. Now, less than a year after finally locking in security with the Lakers, he's facing a second disruption, except this one isn't a front office decision. It's a courtroom filing from someone he was with for a decade. Some analysts project the numbers even higher down the line. That potential deal could make him the first player in league history to land an $80 million season salary, taking home nearly $1 million per game, a staggering figure. Dončić is on a trajectory toward being one of the highest-paid athletes on the planet within just a few seasons. So put $50 million next to that trajectory. It's not enough to bankrupt him, but it's a chunk that lands right in the middle of a contract he just fought to lock in. And it's coming from a jurisdiction where the rules aren't written the way American family courts write them. No formulas pegged to income percentages the way California courts calculate support. Just a demand filed directly for $40 million to Anna Maria, and $10 million assumed to be earmarked for the kids. And here's the strategic brilliance, or brutality, depending which side you're on, of moving this fight to Slovenia in the first place. Luka's team spent weeks building the argument that Slovenia was the only appropriate venue because that's where the girls actually live. Luka previously argued California was the wrong place for the fight because the girls live in Slovenia, and said he'd already initiated proceedings there addressing custody and support. He built the road. She's driving on it, straight toward a bigger number than California's guidelines would have ever produced through a straightforward child support formula. Meanwhile, Luka isn't fighting this from a distance. He's physically in the country where the case is unfolding. The Lakers superstar is currently in Slovenia to be closer to his daughters, after revealing in May he'd skip playing for his national team this summer while pursuing joint custody. Skipping national team competition, representing his own country on the court, just to fight for time with his daughters off it. That's not a small sacrifice for a player of his stature. National team appearances carry pride, legacy, and history for European stars. He walked away from that specifically to be present for a custody fight, and in a detail that shows just how much he's trying to merge his two worlds instead of choosing one over the other. He's not just sitting in Slovenia waiting for hearings. He'll apparently mix family and basketball while he's there. Luka is reportedly hosting the entire Lakers squad for a 4-day minicamp in Slovenia later this month, bringing his NBA team to his home country in the middle of a custody war so he doesn't have to choose between being a father and being a professional athlete preparing for a championship season. That single detail tells you everything about where his head is right now. He's not running from the legal fight. He's not hiding from the $50 million number. He's building his entire life, team, country, daughters, into the same footprint, in the same country, at the same time, because the alternative is losing access to one of them. But here's the question that still hangs over all of it. Heading into whatever comes next, does a $50 million demand in a country like Slovenia actually have the teeth to force a settlement anywhere close to that number? Or is this the opening bid in a negotiation that both sides expect to land somewhere far lower once the lawyers stop posturing and the judge actually starts weighing the numbers? That's the question the next stretch of this fight is going to answer. So where does this actually land? Because a $50 million demand and a $50 million settlement are two very different things, and the gap between them is where this story is heading next. Start with the reality of the number itself. Anna Maria is seeking $40 million for herself, and the remaining $10 million is assumed to be for their two daughters. Luka has said he'd do anything for his kids, so $10 million may be realistic for them, but the $40 million is a whole other story. That split. Realistic child provision. Aggressive personal payout is exactly the kind of structure that gets negotiated down hard in any jurisdiction, Slovenia included. Opening high and settling low is the oldest move in the book. There's also the custody piece, and it's arguably higher stakes than the money. Right now, Luka has real regular time with his daughters. Currently, he has the kids at least 2 days a week, and she wants to reduce it to 1 day a week if that reduction actually goes through. It's not just a financial loss, it's a loss of the exact thing his own statement said this entire breakup was about in the first place, being present for his daughters. And that's what makes this such a strange, quiet contradiction, sitting at the center of the whole story. Luka ended the engagement specifically because he couldn't get enough time with his daughters while playing an NBA season in America. Now, the fight that broke out of that decision is threatening to cut his time with them in half. The exact outcome he said he was fighting to avoid is now the thing being formally requested in a courtroom. Meanwhile, both sides have shown they're capable of shifting strategy fast when the ground moves under them. Remember, the California case wasn't abandoned because Anna Maria lost interest. It was abandoned right as Luka's jurisdictional argument was gaining traction, and it reappeared bigger in the exact country his lawyers said was correct all along. That's not the behavior of someone bluffing. That's the behavior of someone who read the room, recalculated, and moved the fight to where she believed the numbers could actually grow. There's also the matter of what happens off the court while all of this plays out in it. Luka's currently in the best professional position of his career, locked into a max extension, hosting his own teammates in his home country, entering a season where the 5-time All-NBA selection and 5-time All-Star averaged 28.2 points, 8.2 assists, and 7.7 rebounds per game last season while teaming up with LeBron James for 50 victories and the number 3 seed in the Western Conference playoffs Every bit of that success, every bit of that contract security is now sitting next to a legal exposure that didn't exist a year ago in a country most NBA fans couldn't find on a map until this case made headlines. And that's the actual answer to the question this whole story revolves around. Luka Dončić never walked down an aisle. There's no marriage certificate, no divorce filing, no community property split waiting to happen in an American family court with decades of precedent behind it. But none of that mattered once two people who built a decade of life together and two children decided the relationship was over. The money fight happened anyway. It just happened through custody law and support claims instead of divorce court in a country 3,000 miles from Staples Center, filed by a woman with an economics degree and a legal team that watched Luka's own jurisdictional argument and used it against him. $50 million is the number on the page right now. Whether it's the number that actually gets paid is still an open question, sitting in front of a Slovenian judge tangled up with custody schedules, missing signatures, and two people who spent a decade together before either of them had this kind